Chapter 43. How can I get to a place called Brightfish Bend? Ruby looked at him skeptically. Jefferson J. Jackson's place? You know him? Everybody knows Jackson. Hayden couldn't tell her by her tone whether it was good or bad. What do you want him for? Well, I came out here in his wagon train. He kept some things for me. Books. Ruby looked at him skeptically. It's a long day on horseback, she said. 12 or 15 mile. Best way is by boat. I might be able to find someone or other headed up that way. She jangled her babbled wrists in a clear demonstration of the emptiness of her palm. Aiden fished out some coins. His $20 was quickly running out of his place. Aiden wasn't sure what he had expected Jefferson J. Jackson's trading post to look like, but it certainly wasn't this. It looked more like a small village. He thought as he walked up the boardwalk from the little dock, the main house was a big, sturdy, L-shaped log building with a wide front porch facing the south. Every pillar was beautifully carved with Indian designs. Between the pillars dangled strings of shells and clicked in the wind with gentle music. The wing at one end, the building was clearly the store, while the rest looked like a home, though far bigger than any one family's home. There was at least 6 other buildings that he could see scattered back among the trees, but all connected with boardwalks. As he walked toward the main building, he heard giggles from above and looked up to see about a dozen small Indian children waving to him from a little treehouse. They climbed nimbly down and swarmed around him, laughing and chattering in a combination of English and some Indian language. The door to the main house opened and Jackson came out. Aiden was surprised to see him. Jackson's gaunt face had filled out. His once sinewy limbs now seemed more suited to armchairs than the saddle. He wasn't fat like a banker or any other rich man, but a different person entirely from the stringy old trapper Aiden had known on the trail. I didn't really expect you until tomorrow, he said. Tupic got here all right then? He did, yesterday evening. Jackson looked him up and down. He said nothing about the fresh bruises and scrapes on his face. He's out with the men hunting seal. Jackson looked around the quiet compound. Everyone else had gone down to the beach for the butchering. Tide will have them coming in soon. The children continued to dance around Aiden. Go on, all of you. Jackson waved the children off. They scrapped around but didn't leave. Go on, get. Go on, get. One little boy mimicked him, timing imperfectly, so they shouted in unison. The children shrieked with laughter. You little savages! Jackson growled and stomped in their direction. The children didn't seem particularly scared of him, but scampered off toward the water anyway. Jackson motioned Aiden toward one of the porch chairs. Come sit while we have the sun and the quiet. Aiden sank gratefully into the chair. Last night's beating was starting to ache on him, and though the water and the sound was calm today, the voyage from Seattle in the small boat had made him seasick. The chair had made of bend willow and branches was amazingly comfortable. It creaked gently as he sat down and seemed to bend around his body. The afternoon sun was low and beamed in under the roof. Jackson went inside and came out a few minutes later with mugs of coffee, a bottle of whiskey, and 2 glasses. Huh, thanks, Aiden said. They raised their glasses and drank. Sure is a nice place. Where are all those children? Who lives here? Well, my family. Aiden's astonishment must have shown on his face. Don't be surprised, Jackson laughed. I've been around a while, boy. Family happens. Put his feet up on the stool, using his hands to help lift the stiff limbs. My first wife was Shoshone from Idaho, back in the 30s. When I was trapping, I wintered with her people for 9 years. We had 6 children, 5 that lived. 3 of them live here now, with their children. 12 or 13, I think. For those are your grandchildren. Some, but the smart-mouthed one? Well, Jackson gave him a proud smile. He's direct. Bit of a surprise there. He just turned 5. I have 6 by my 3rd wife. Saloui, she's Yakima from north of here. Married her in, I think, 51. 6? 4 sons, 2 daughters. The oldest one's 14. Teaching English up north somewhere on the reservation. In between was a Mexican wife, died birthing a son, Francis. I hardly even knew her. Pretty girl, though. Her folks died, too. And Mexico all tore up on account of that war, so I brought the boy back with me, and the Shoshones took him in with the rest of them. But how did all this Aiden looked around the compound. Come about. Remember I told you of the rendezvous, how trappers would squander a year's fortune? And you asked why didn't they squander half and save the rest? You saved the rest? I did. Jackson gave him a sly smile and poured both another drink. With the wagon train money and the logging bounties, I did all right. About 10 years ago, I found this place and saw some possibilities. Didn't know what come to Seattle then. Only been a city since '51, but I figured this land here, with the harbor, timber, might do all right. Nothing else is pretty. You could live well enough off the land if you like fish. Solowese people own it, such as owning it with them, but the Indians getting put on reservations, we worked it out for me to buy it. Then a few years ago, when things got bad on the plains, I bought my Shoshones, those who wanted, out here from Idaho. I didn't buy it, I brought it. How do you all live? Some fish, hunt seal, raise chickens and goats. Some work as loggers. The girls do weaving, make baskets. The men build these chairs. He slapped the arms proudly. Sell for $20 a piece in San Francisco. Francis, the Mexican one, turned out smart with trade and such. He married a Yakima girl and they have 2 babies. Aiden gave him up trying to count up Jackson's prodigy. You see, I got a good life here now. Jackson gave him a long, hard look. I don't need any trouble, he said, with clear meaning. The sun was dropping and the sky turned plummy blue with winter dusk. Aiden saw 4 small boats approaching and heard the welcome shouts of the women and children drifting in through the trees. What did Tupic tell you? I told him, tell me nothing. But I got a message a couple weeks back that some Indians were in jail, saying they knew me. That's trouble enough. You know they killed Silent Wolf. I get the newspaper. Didn't figure it all out as to whom it was until after Tupic showed up, though. A door opened in one of the other buildings, and 2 young women, 18 or 20, came out, carrying infants. They waved to Jackson and hurried down the hill toward the shore to join the others. So you know why they came? Aiden pressed. For the vaccine? Stupid idea. Clever Crow died of the smallpox. Jackson rubbed his gnarled hands over his face. That's a damn shame. Your family, have they all been vaccinated? Aiden asked quietly. That ain't gonna work on me, Jackson shook his head. Wherever you think you're going with that, guilt feelings, moral right, what have you, ain't no use. I have sympathetic feelings for other plights, I do. He looked out over the village. But I know the clear fact is Indians are doomed one way or the other. He took another drink. There was warfare here 10 years ago. Puget Sound War, they called it now. Indians lost. Result was they all got bound to reservations. But this is my private owned land. And with my Indians being half-breeds and family as they are, it works in the law all right. There are ones here I can see to, but there's plenty of folks around still don't like it. Aiden nodded. I understand. Jackson got up, pushed hard to the arms of the chair. I don't done much in the world but make this place and look out for my own. He coughed and spat. I never looked fixin' for the world. .44. Butter-colored cat leapt up nowhere and butted imperiously at Jackson's hand. You and Tupic are welcome to stay the night, he said, scratching the cat's ears. We'll be feast and supper, I imagine, with a seal. I don't like seal meat much myself, but it's healthful in the midwinter. Thank you, Aiden said, but I was still planning on traveling on tonight. The moon is bright enough if the clouds stay off. I was hoping to buy a horse from you. With what? I have cash. $170. Mr. Pauhi holds it for me, and we'll see that you get it. $170? You fighting then? Jackson nodded. You must be all right if you won that much, he grinned. Can't imagine the no damage part would be easy for you, though. You know about the fights? Of course I do. Well, Napoleon Gilvery doesn't, so I'd be grateful if you didn't mention it to him next time you see him. It's the only way I got Mr. Pauhi to let me go for a week. You threatened to tell Mr. Gilvery about the fights. Or I threatened to tell Mr. Gilvery about the fights. Jackson let out a big laugh and picked up the languid cat. Boy, for as smart as you are sometimes, you're also astound me. God almighty! Ain't nothing Napoleon Gilvery doesn't know about what goes on in his camps. He knows every man's shoe size, which tree he pisses on. If Pauhi thinks Gilvery don't know about the fights, it's because Gilvery wants him to think that. Why? Well, first of all, if the fights weren't a secret, the man would pay off their debts with their winnings. Gilvery would rather have the loggers bound to him and cut trees. You know how far he goes to get men these days? Dragging some skinny-ass boy halfway across the continent. Jackson raised his glass to Aiden and tipped up the last sip of whiskey. Well, first of all, fights ain't secret. Men could pay off their debts with the winnings. Second, it keeps he and the other bosses happy with extra bonus money that don't comes from Gilvery's own pocket. Plus, it gives him leverage over those who should never need it. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if Gilvery got the fight started in the first place, Jackson added. Loggers borrow against their wages to bet and dig their debt deeper, bigger. Gilvery is happy to just keep adding days to their tally. Aiden looked away. This feeling stupid was getting way too familiar. Then he had another thought, even more chilling. He touched the bruises on the side of his face. Now he knew what was bothering him about last night's attack. Just like the camp fights. Real Shanghai crews probably weren't out to injure a man. They wanted someone who could work on a ship. Bashing a man's skull in wasn't likely to get that. Papa! Papa! The shout startled Aiden. A wave of children burst out of the trees into the clearing. All but the smallest toddlers carried baskets or bags of seal meat. Bright red droplets of blood left a lobby trail behind as they came. I have 3 horses I could sell you, Jackson said, dropping the butter cat gently to the porch. Toothpick nose horses, Aiden said. Let him choose. The sun was setting and the sky turned a deep red as if God had scratched a gash in the horizon and made it bleed. Behind the children came the women, carrying the rolled up bundles of seal skins, the silvery brown fur glistening in the sun. The men, their work done now, carried nothing but their harpoons. Everyone was laughing and talking, and a group of young boys, 9 or 10 years old, were leaping about, arms waving, clearly telling some wild tales of their day's adventure. Aiden could see some physical differences between the Shoshone and the Yakima, but the Indians did not seem to be separated by tribe as much as age. The young boys were together, the mothers, the babies, older women, and another group. The scampering toddlers ran like a flock of ducklings. Young Indian girls walked close to the same way white girls did, heading together in hushed confidence and unconscious beauty, like small important butterflies, the subject of their glances and giggles. Today seemed to be toward Tupik, who walked in oblivious with the young men. Papa! Papa! Jackson walked down the stairs into the middle of them and all swallowed up in touch. He took a fat baby from the woman's arms and kissed it on the cheek. Little boys tugged at his hands. Aiden watched from the porch. He did not want to know these smiling women and triumphant young men, these pretty girls and giggling children with their chasing games and songs. He only wanted to be back in the dark woods, with the muscled days and the thick black nights, with the anonymous fill of food and coffin-shaped space on his bunk. He wanted the foggy chill of morning, the prick of sweat on his back, the soft sing of drink at the end of the day. He wanted to fight and work and sleep. It made a manageable life for him. He realized he hadn't eaten since the morning's lumpy cornbread, and the whiskey was spinning his brain. When Tupik saw him and ran onto the porch, he looked like a new person, his hair neatly cut, his eyes bright again. "Aiden!" he cried. Aiden saw the brightness fade when Tupik read his face. He didn't get it. "Not yet," Aiden said. "But I have a plan." "What do you mean? What happened?" Children began racing up the steps and into the house as the swarm of people filled the air. "I'll tell you everything later," Aiden said. "Trust me, we need to leave after supper and travel tonight. Jackson will sell me a horse. You need to choose it." Tupik gave a long, searching look, but finally nodded. "I will go look at the horses," he said. Jackson came back up on the porch just then, his hand on the arm of an Indian woman, escorting her as if she was the queen of the world. Aiden jumped to his feet. "This is my wife, Salawi," Jackson said. He sounded oddly shy. "Pleased to meet you, ma'am." Aiden wasn't sure how to greet her, but Salawi eased the awkwardness by stepping forward and kissing him on both cheeks. "Welcome, Aiden. I'm happy to meet you. I hear much of your help to Mr. Jackson on the journey." She was a small woman with large brown eyes framed by thick black lashes. There were threads of gray in her hair, and Aiden figured she was in her early 40s, but she was still quite beautiful. "Please, will you honor us and join the meal?" Well, yes, ma'am, thank you. I must go then. She looked sharply at two of the other women. Or some will cook the seal too much. She smiled and disappeared into the house. They do snipe some, Jackson sighed. Oh well. Go on inside, make yourself comfortable. I'll show Tupic the horses, and Francis will open the store if there's something that you will need. I'll put it on your account.